My name is Caroline Mercer, and I am 38 years old. On a Thursday morning in September, I received an automated email from my life insurance provider informing me that a request had been submitted to cancel my policy, effective in 14 days. Unless I confirmed this cancellation was initiated by me, I had not submitted any such request. The email included a reference number for a cancellation form that had been submitted 3 days earlier. Signed apparently, with my name. My husband, Nathan, was the only other person who had ever had access to any of our insurance documents. Before I tell you what I found when I called the insurance company that same morning, please take a moment to like and subscribe. Drop your city and the time where you are watching from. I read every single comment. Let me take you back to the year before that email arrived, and the marriage I had been quietly trying to understand for considerably longer than I had admitted to myself. Nathan and I had been married for 6 years when that email arrived. A marriage that, for most of its earlier years, had felt genuinely functional, though I recognize now, with the considerable clarity that only follows a period of sustained, deliberate reflection, that I had been accommodating a pattern of controlling behavior for considerably longer than I had acknowledged to myself at the time. The controlling behavior I am describing was not, for most of our marriage, dramatic or overtly threatening. It operated, instead, through the kind of incremental, individually justifiable mechanisms that tend to remain below the threshold of clear recognition, precisely because each individual instance carries a plausible enough alternative explanation to prevent the pattern from becoming undeniable on the basis of any single incident. Nathan gradually assumed management of our household finances during our second year of marriage, framing this as a practical arrangement, given that his own professional background included financial management while mine did not. I agreed, at the time, genuinely believing this represented a reasonable division of household responsibilities rather than the beginning of a pattern I did not yet fully recognize. Over the following years, my direct access to information about our shared financial affairs gradually narrowed, again, through incremental, individually explicable mechanisms. Online account access that I had previously shared became, through various password changes attributed to security updates, exclusively managed by Nathan. Mail arriving regarding our shared financial accounts began being collected and managed by Nathan before I had opportunity to review it independently. Questions I raised about specific financial details were answered in sufficient, if sometimes vague, terms that did not obviously warrant further, more persistent inquiry at the time. I want to be honest about my own role in this gradual process, recognizing that I accommodated these incremental changes more readily than, in retrospect, I should have, attributing each individual shift to reasonable, practical explanations rather than recognizing the accumulated pattern they collectively represented. By our 5th year of marriage, my independent awareness of and access to our shared financial situation had become considerably more limited than I had previously understood it to be, a limitation I had, by that point, grown accustomed to in ways that no longer felt particularly unusual or concerning on a daily basis. The specific period preceding the insurance email, roughly the 12 months before it arrived, had involved a growing, uncomfortable awareness that something in our marriage's dynamics had shifted towards something I found increasingly difficult to simply attribute to ordinary stress or ordinary relationship difficulty. Nathan had become, during this period, more explicitly controlling in certain behaviors that had previously been subtler, monitoring my phone more openly, asking detailed questions about my whereabouts and my independent activities with a frequency and a tone that felt increasingly less like genuine interest and more like deliberate surveillance. He had also, during this same period, made several specific financial decisions affecting our shared situation. Decisions I learned about only after they had already been executed, framed, when I raised questions, as practical arrangements made on behalf of our household that did not require my independent involvement or prior approval. I had begun, during this period, considering, seriously and for the first time, whether our marriage had reached a point requiring professional intervention or potentially a more fundamental reassessment of its future. I had not yet taken any concrete action regarding either possibility when the insurance email arrived. I called my insurance provider that same Thursday morning, within an hour of receiving the automated email, asking them to explain what cancellation request had been submitted and through what process. The customer service representative I spoke with confirmed that a cancellation form had been submitted 3 days earlier via the company's online portal, using login credentials associated with our joint policy account, listing my name as the policyholder initiating the cancellation, and providing what the representative described as standard identifying verification information to support the request's legitimacy. I told the representative directly that I had not submitted any such request, that I had not used the online portal recently, and that I was formally disputing the cancellation request as unauthorized. The representative placed the cancellation on hold pending investigation and transferred me to their fraud prevention department. A call that extended across roughly 40 minutes, during which I provided detailed information about what I knew and did not know about the submitted request, and during which the fraud prevention officer I spoke with confirmed that the login credentials used and the specific verification information provided would, under ordinary circumstances, have suggested an authorized request. I want to walk through specifically what the subsequent fraud investigation eventually established, because the specific details matter considerably to understanding the full scope of what had been attempted. The insurance company's investigation, which extended across approximately 3 weeks, established that the cancellation request had been submitted from an IP address traceable to our home network, during a period when I had been verifiably absent from home for a full workday, while Nathan, who worked from home, had been present throughout. The investigation also established that the specific verification information provided during the cancellation request included details that, while technically accurate, were drawn from documents that I had not independently accessed in several years. Documents that were stored physically in a filing cabinet in our home office that Nathan managed. Documents whose precise contents I had not independently reviewed or referenced recently enough to have the specific figures they contained readily accessible from memory. The combination of these specific investigative findings led the insurance company's fraud department to determine that the cancellation request had likely not been submitted by me, and to refer the matter formally to law enforcement for further investigation. I want to be honest about how genuinely disorienting the period immediately following these investigative findings actually was. Navigating simultaneously the specific, concrete shock of understanding what had apparently been attempted and the broader, more complicated emotional reality of what this meant regarding the marriage and the person I had been living with for 6 years. I contacted a family law attorney during the same period, recognizing that whatever the precise legal outcome of the insurance fraud investigation might eventually be, the fundamental question of my own safety and security within my current living situation required immediate, independent attention. My attorney, a careful, experienced woman named Patricia Voss, advised me, during our initial consultation, that the combination of the insurance fraud investigation and the pattern of financial control I described represented a situation requiring both immediate practical safety planning and deliberate, careful legal preparation before any direct confrontation with Nathan occurred. I want to walk through, specifically, the practical steps Patricia and I took during the several weeks following my initial consultation, because I think the deliberate, methodical nature of this preparation matters considerably to understanding how the eventual confrontation unfolded. With Patricia's guidance, I spent approximately 2 weeks quietly, independently gathering documentation regarding our shared financial situation, using periods when Nathan was absent from the house to independently access and photograph the contents of the home office filing cabinet, establishing, for the first time since early in our marriage, a comprehensive, independent record of our shared financial accounts, assets, and documents. This process revealed several specific additional concerns that had not been visible to me through the limited financial access I had previously maintained, including evidence that Nathan had made several significant unauthorized transactions from jointly held accounts during the preceding 18 months. Transactions I had not previously been aware of or had any opportunity to question at the time they occurred. The law enforcement investigation regarding the insurance cancellation request had, by this point, proceeded to the stage of a formal interview with Nathan, conducted by investigators from the insurance company's fraud department working in coordination with local law enforcement, an interview that occurred without my direct knowledge or involvement, but whose general occurrence I was informed of by my own attorney through appropriate channels. Nathan's response during this investigation interview as I eventually learned, included an initial denial that he had submitted the cancellation request followed. When investigators presented specific technical evidence regarding IP addresses and access timestamps, by a revised account suggesting he had submitted the request believing he was authorized to do so as a joint policyholder, a characterization that the investigators apparently found inconsistent with the specific steps the request had required, including the deliberate use of identifying information specific to me rather than to him as the initiating party. I confronted Nathan directly, approximately 3 weeks after my initial discovery of the cancellation email. Armed with both Patricia's legal guidance and the comprehensive financial documentation I had independently gathered during the preceding weeks, choosing a specific afternoon when both of us were home, and when I had arranged for Patricia to be available by phone if needed, I told Nathan, directly, that I was aware of the cancellation request, that the insurance company's fraud investigation had established what it had established, and that I had additionally spent the preceding several weeks independently reviewing our shared financial records for the first time in years. I told him I knew about the unauthorized transactions. I told him I had spoken with both an attorney and law enforcement. I told him that whatever his intentions had been regarding the insurance cancellation, I was no longer in a situation where I needed to speculate about those intentions, because the pattern I was now able to document spoke for itself with sufficient clarity. Nathan's response to this confrontation, which I had genuinely been uncertain how to anticipate, given the specific gravity of what I was raising, was considerably less volatile than I had feared, and considerably more revealing than I had expected. He did not deny, ultimately, having submitted the cancellation request. He characterized it, instead, in terms I found genuinely difficult to fully process in the moment, suggesting that he had been attempting to simplify our financial arrangements during a period when he was, in his description, planning significant changes to our shared situation, changes he had not yet discussed with me directly. I asked him directly what kind of significant changes he had been planning that would have been simplified by canceling my life insurance policy without my knowledge or consent. He did not provide a coherent answer to that question. I did not press further for one, recognizing that whatever answer he might eventually construct would likely matter considerably less than the documentation I had already gathered, and the legal process already underway. The divorce proceedings began approximately 1 month after this confrontation, a process that, combined with the ongoing law enforcement and insurance fraud investigation, created the most genuinely demanding period of my adult life, logistically, emotionally, and practically. Nathan was ultimately charged with insurance fraud in connection with the cancellation request submission, a charge that, at the time of my telling this story, has proceeded through the legal system to a point of formal resolution that I will not detail exhaustively here, both for legal reasons and because I think the specific outcome of that process matters considerably less to this story than the broader pattern that led to it. The divorce itself was finalized approximately 9 months after the confrontation, with asset division that, given the documentation I had independently gathered regarding the unauthorized transactions during our marriage, was considerably more favorable to my own position than it might otherwise have been had I not spent those 2 weeks in the home office filing cabinet before any direct confrontation occurred. I live alone now, in a smaller apartment than the house Nathan and I shared, a space that feels, every single morning I wake up in it, considerably more genuinely mine than any space I inhabited during the 6 years. I accommodated a pattern I should have recognized and addressed considerably sooner than I ultimately did. I have, notably, maintained my life insurance policy, which was fully reinstated following the fraud investigation's findings, with updated account security that ensures no request can be processed without direct, independent verification from me specifically. I think often about that automated email arriving on a Thursday morning, the specific, almost bureaucratic ordinariness of its format, the way it had clearly been designed simply to confirm an ordinary policyholder's deliberate, authorized decision repurposed entirely without any design intention, into the specific warning that an automated system could never have anticipated needing to send. I think about what would have happened had that notification email not existed. Had the cancellation simply processed without any confirmation requirement? Had whatever Nathan had been planning proceeded without the specific, Accidental interruption of a routine customer service notification designed for an entirely different purpose. I think about that possibility with a specific, concrete gratitude that I recognize has no appropriate single object, directed instead toward whatever combination of insurance company policy and automated system design happened to produce a notification protocol that, entirely without intent, provided me with exactly the warning I needed at exactly the moment I needed it. That email saved something considerably more important than a financial policy. That is my story. If you have ever been protected by something that was never designed to protect you, a notification, an email, a simple automated system doing exactly what it was built to do, I want to hear about it. Drop it in the comments. And if this story reminded you that safety sometimes arrives through the most ordinary, unremarkable channels, share it with someone who needs to hear that today. I will see you in the next one.